Hello, this is Dale Matthews. I'm joined by Mike Jones and the County Charter.
Yes. And is the charter going to be with us by telephone?
Well, no, we're going to need to do most of the voicing for the charter, and the people are the voice of the charter. Something
Yes.
like that.
Yes. Go
What,
figure.
one of the things that happens with Mike and I is we get a lot of information in from a lot of people, and they're saying, "Oh, well, look, here's news." Well, thanks for sharing that. What's the source? Well, I think sometimes they're just not really that interested in telling us a source. We don't want to tell you about it unless it's conjecture, and then we make it clear that you know it's conjecture. Sometimes we have to guess about the patterns and what do they mean, but we like to tell you what the source is so that you have the power to go look it up for yourself. Why is that important? Well, because in the case of county clerk, which is Art Harvey, and Cheryl Walker, commissioner specifically, occasionally they'll read from a document, well, it says this, and then we'll go look at it, and that's not what it says. That's just a direct, flat out lie. And Cheryl's been caught doing this several times, and we got it from the clerk as well, county clerk Art Harvey. Okay, so I don't like that kind of thing. And so what we try to do is we tell you how to go double check us, because you don't always get the sources from the courier either, and certainly not from KJO. So we're just going to give you a very brief tutorial, very, very brief. This is not going to be like going back to school. It's too hot for school. But we'll tell you how you can look up what we're telling you very easily. So you go to your search engine. If you don't know what a search engine is, find a 12-year-old. Okay.
Yes. And how did you get to the point of watching this program if you don't understand what a search engine is?
Well, in case you're explaining it to your friend over the barbecue. So
Right.
you go to Google. Google is not a bad place to go, and you type in Josephine County. You don't have to put parentheses or anything around it. You just type in Josephine County, quotes around it. I think that we're the one and only Josephine County, as unbelievable as that is, in the entire world. I think so. Now,
Wow.
Josephine City, maybe, or Grants Pass. It's the only Grants Pass in the entire world. Well, that's explainable. But
Yes.
Josephine County, I think we're the only one. And Josephine County will jump up to the top of your list. And you just choose Josephine County, and up will come this screen. It's got probably too many pictures and that kind of stuff on it, but it is the Josephine County homepage. And you click, you see over in the left-hand column, you will see when you're looking for it, something that says County Charter. And you click on that. What will come up will be, pardon my back here, what will come up will be a PDF. PDF stands for Portable Document Format. You don't have to remember that, just PDF. It's made by a company called Adobe. They're the
Yes.
leaders in it. Yes.
And Adobe also makes, editing software and other things.
This show brought to you by Adobe. It's the one
Yes,
place to go. Right.
yeah,
No, but
that's right.
you can get if you don't have an Adobe reader, it's free online.
Mhm.
You can also type in Adobe Reader, free Adobe Reader. Okay. And then they will send you that immediately. It's downloadable. You can get that 12-year-old to tell you downloadable.
Yes.
And you can get that for free and have it on your computer. And anytime a PDF comes up, why a PDF? Because if you get a document from someone, let's say this typed on Microsoft Word, this is typing, it will have a little thing at the end called doc, D-O-C. It's a document. Well, a PDF is a little bit better than a document, is it's searchable. And what that means is, for example, the office staff and the Board of County Commissioners, they have a really expensive copier that can make those pieces of paper into sort of like photographs, which is like a photocopy, which is not searchable. I mean, you have to look at the whole page. And if it's a 200-page document, good luck. Or they
Yes.
can also set it very easily, single setting, and now it's a PDF and it's searchable. Well, they don't always like to do that. Oh, that's a little bit of extra work. You got to press a button or something. You got to remember to do it. Well, this is searchable. This is what the county charter looks like. There's two documents. One's the county charter, and the other is the annotations, a fancy way of saying here's the court cases that might throw part of this in the wastebasket.
That's right. pretty much.
And so we're going to be telling you about the fees section. The fees again, yes. Okay, look, next week we're going to talk about the Second Amendment. Oh, that's my favorite. Okay, just settle down a little bit. Okay, I can hear you out there.
That's funny because that's what I was ready to talk about today.
No, he was ready to talk about fees. And the reason that the fees situation is right is it's emblematic. It's a good situation to use as an example of what's happened to our charter. It gives you all kinds of rights, and some of these can be nullified by a court case. So Mike can do this so easily. I'm not tricking him or getting him into explaining something. He'll know every detail about this.
Sure.
Because how did we get, first of all, why don't you tell us this latest court case that you've heard about? And while it might be national, it does have some local repercussions. Tell us about the Supreme Court and the decision they made recently, which is about, you have a document and then the court gets involved.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're talking about, but that particular case that we're talking about relates to Second Amendment stuff and doesn't have to do with fees.
But it sounds like it relates to gay marriage, and it's not just about gay marriage. See, sometimes these cases have far-reaching
okay. Right. Okay. So the court used Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to justify their argument, which reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state, this is the crux of the thing here, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So while this may seem like the judgment was solely and completely about gay marriage, it wasn't anything of the kind. This was just affirming this particular part of the 14th Amendment, which is now going to be applied to everything you can possibly imagine,
including the Second Amendment. And should states have the right to have different rules as you travel from state to state, or is the federal government going to say, no, there should be only one rule?
Boy, I'll tell you, I think in this particular case, there is going to be some battling back and forth because there's a lot of states that do not want this at all. Because the implication is that if you have a concealed carry permit that is valid in the state of Oregon, you can then go to California with no repercussion. And California would beg to differ, I would imagine. So this is there's going to be some crazy stuff happening behind this and unforeseen circumstances, repercussions, as it were, for the ruling that took place on Thursday.
This is a battle that will never, ever end. I don't mean Second Amendment, and I don't mean gay marriage. I mean states' rights versus federalism. We fought a whole war about this, okay?
Yes.
Who has the right to decide? Does your local town council have the right to decide? How about the state? Can the state tell the local town council? Can the federal government tell the state what to do? And it didn't start with this, but one of the prime examples was, well, we have a rule here in Alabama that black people can't be allowed to breathe. Okay, well, but the federal government say, no, wait a minute. You can't do that. Yes, we can. Yeah. We have supremacy. Yes. It's a battle that will never be won by either side.
And in case, this is a good point that Dale's making, because in case many of you have the misunderstanding that the Civil War was fought to free the slaves, guess again. That was a fortunate side effect of it, but that was not what the war was fought over. This was fought over the South's right to do what the hell they want to. And
one indication of
the federal government trying to.
Sorry, there's a lag. There's this lag. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
Well, one indication of that is that when Lincoln freed the slaves, he only freed the slaves in the South. Really? Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't free any northern slaves at all. He freed the slaves that were in the rebellious states and said they're all now free people. Well, it didn't work out so well, not for a long, long time, about 100 more years, but still, that was what he said. So he didn't, so there was still slavery in the northern states, or there was, people were property. So, yeah.
I would think that maybe some of the slaves that were freed might take issue with your 100-year thing there. I would think that they would think that it was distinctly different after being owned and then not being owned. That's but
Well, which is my point about the federal government stepping in and saying you cannot tell black people in your state of X that foreign by the X of the flag, probably, but that they don't have a right to vote.
Mhm.
No, that's not right, buddy. That's not correct. And
That's
so the
not
federal government stepped
right.
in. So should this federal government, well, we've had this example with the $2 tax here in Oregon. Should the state government have a right to say to you as a resident of Josephine County, we don't want you to have the ability to decide your own taxes. We're going to decide it for you. We're the state. Oh, really? And that's where the discussion with Wally Hicks came in, as he was talking about, does the charter protect us from such state incursions, or does it not? And you might say,
Mhm.
this is all so boring. It's not boring. No, listen,
Oh,
if
but
you're
wait a
interested,
minute. This is
no, it's not
Josephine
boring.
County's. This is the state we find ourselves in Josephine County. We're put upon by the federal government. We're put upon by the state, and many could make an argument the reason why we have no prosperity here is because of not having the autonomous rights here.
So let's suppose there's a couple new commissioners that come in and we toss out the rascals. We're going to have to
Yes.
keep doing that all the time, but okay, we toss out the rascals.
Yes.
And then the new commissioners say, you know what? I think that we want to be able to take people like Larry Graves at the airport who keep saying, I'm going to F you and F this and F, and say, hey, wait a minute, you've been warned already.
There
You're
goes
doing it
Dale again.
There's no room for a person such as you saying such things. You may be a great guy and other things, but no, you're not allowed to do that. You've already been warned. Now, then the question is, when you go to the unions, who do have a lot to say about this, or you go to legal counsel, what rights do your elected representatives have to fire somebody? If they say, this is intolerable behavior, well, you can't stop me. You know, what rights do they have? Do they have the ability to do anything about it at all? And if you don't have the power, you're not going to be able to do anything. And the same thing goes for reaffirming your Second Amendment rights. And if the state says we're going to put a bunch of new rules on you, we say, no, we've got a charter. Do we have the standing to do so? It is about standing. Can we say, when these new commissioners get in, can they say, well, look, I know, because you've heard this show a couple of times, I know that there have been some court rulings that say that the Josephine County government does not have to follow the will of the people and can decide to apply fees anytime that they want to. And they don't have to be justifiable. Well, yeah, it's justifiable, but it's not. Do those commissioners have the ability to say, yes, you brought your new fees to us, but we're not going to impose them immediately? What do you mean? We won a court case. Yeah, we know that we did, but we're going to do what it says in the charter. You can't do what it says in the charter, can we?
Yes. Well, we would have had that right as it relates to fees, except for they hoodwinked us.
They did.
And,
yes. Yeah. And we went into great depth with you about this, and you can watch our past shows with Wally Hicks explaining what had happened. The people had passed this amendment to the charter that says we want control over the fees. Okay, we've got control over the fees. Woohoo! And then it was suggested by the county government and Steve Rich, who was here for 20 years. Well, let's put out another thing to the public, and I'll say call it something like we want to streamline the process. Streamline the process. Count me in. Sounds good. Yeah, but what people didn't understand, what was in that is streamlining meant
things done.
Yes, streamlining in this case meant the public is completely out of the process.
Yes,
it's right. Over.
Yes, it's now
we
back in our hands. We
streamlined it by dropping you. Okay, you as the public no longer have any control, because look at the result. it's all back in the hands of the commissioners again. So here's the
Well,
question.
and now I hate to say this.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but kind of serves you right. You didn't do your homework. You weren't paying attention. You were apathetic, and they snuck this one in on you, and that ought to be a lesson to you.
Okay,
Don't ever be caught.
Wait a second. Now the people have a means to find out what the heck is going on. Because who are you going to get
what
that?
What the heck is going on?
Dwight Ellis, the chair at that time, from Steve Rich, the legal counsel, from the Daily Courier, from KJO Radio. None of these people are going to tell you, oh, by the way, you're giving away all the things you voted for. They're not going to tell you that because they all wanted it to go back.
They're down with it.
Yeah. So who's going to tell you? Yes, you have the ability to read it, which is, yes, you have the ability to read it, which is why I told you how to find the charter for yourself. Read along with this. Maybe not now, but you can look at it later. Don't take our word for it. Don't let anybody be your filter, okay? Including us. What pays off for the people who give us the news and don't tell us the source, what pays off for the county government that tells you something which is not in writing at all, it's exactly the opposite sometimes, is that they still have the power over you. There's nobody, well, except for Mike and I, honestly, that has any motive to tell you how to find out for yourself. Because then the power passes from the information gatherers to you. They don't want you to have the power. Am I making sense when I'm saying this to you?
Oh, if you're talking to me, yeah, baby.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go over what it actually says in the charter. And we're going to start with the part this time about the fees to kind of sum that up and where you can find it. It's emblematic of the entire situation. And
the nice thing here is that we already have the backdrop of everything that we have heard from Wally about this, so that we, we'll be able to go, hey, wait a minute.
And you should be thinking, in my opinion, while we're going through this, if we get into two commissioners that are interested in shifting the power around from the ruling elite, geez, now I sound like a revolutionary, to the people, then couldn't those commissioners say, you know what? Yes, somebody won a bunch of court cases against the people. We're still going to go by what the charter says. We're still going to insist that we're only paid $30,000. What? We're going to insist that we do back up people in the Second Amendment. What? You don't have to do that. We want to. We're going to insist that when we take the oath that we also swear to obey the charter. Oh, the judge says you can't do that. Okay, then fire me. I'm going to obey the charter. Cart me out. Take me away in chains. That'd make a good video. Woo-hoo. So anyway, so Mike, why don't you start off at the top of that section? Is it 25.6 or 26.5?
Are you talking about fees?
Yes, sir.
That's 29.5.
That's what I said.
Yes, that's right. Yes. I think this is on tape. We can check this now.
Oh man, I hate tape.
Yes, you're in trouble. You better walk that one back, Dale.
Mr. Matthews says he has everything on tape, and he obviously doesn't. Yeah. Okay, here's what it said. Mike and I are going to take turns reading this, just so it's not so boring. Well, too late.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. 29.5 is the charter amendment, and it has to do with fees. So voter approval shall be required for any use fee, license fee, or any other fee that may be established by the county. In no way shall this act interfere with any existing fee or license programs, nor with any policy or procedures related thereto, nor shall it interfere with judicial mandate or state or national law.
Definitions: fee, a charge fixed by law for the services of public officers or for the use of a privilege or of property under control or ownership of the county. License is a permit or warrant issued by the county or agents thereof, empowering blah, blah. Look, I'm sorry, that's kind of boring. But the point is, as Wally Hicks had said, even the state doesn't know the difference between a fee and a tax. And
Mhm.
so it's any charge. So we have a meeting coming up on Wednesday morning where the commissioners are going to basically approve any fees that their departments ask for. You can come to that and say, hey, hold on a second. What does it say in the
Yeah.
charter? And their answer is going to be, well, it doesn't matter what the charter says. It only matters about this victory that we won over the public with our elected commissioners and our elected legal counsel, the previous one, who took all those powers away from you. And you might
Well,
say, hey, we don't like that.
yeah, Dale. Now, admittedly, I should have gotten this from you before the program, but didn't you have the text somewhere of the measure that was put forth that the people got hoodwinked on?
Oh, I
I
did.
I'd be interested to know how that differs from the wording on this here, and because I mean the salient part of this is voter approval shall be required before any use fee, license fee, or any other fee may be established by the county. Now, that's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely clear. And what happened in this particular case, let me switch back over to this where you can see me. Okay, okay. What happened in this particular case is they decided the county decided, the commissioners at the time, led by Dwight Ellis and the county legal counsel, decided to put something on the ballot. They put it on the ballot. They didn't have to go through any procedure of getting people to sign up. Less questions to be asked and answered. And they called it something like, the explanation of this is that it's going to be a wonderful way to smooth out the process and make all the fees uniform in the way that they're handled. Uniform in the way they're handled. That sounds like a wonderful idea. Let's do that. And so people said, well, okay. And they did it in an off year. It passed. Right after that, then the county went in, and you may recall Steve Rich. You may recall Wally Hicks saying you need to have two hands clapping in any court case. There needs to be a plaintiff and a defendant or whatever, and you need to have two different sides. So what Steve Rich put together, and the commissioners did too, is the county commissioners would be one hand, and the county commissioners plus government would be the other hand. What a deal. They were on both sides of that argument.
Yeah, go figure that.
No, I'm not making this up. This is what Wally Hicks told us. And so they went to court against each other. Well, who's going to win? Does it matter?
Yeah,
they
doesn't
won.
Really matter. Yeah,
the other side never showed up.
Yeah, and I mean, can two different parts of government be two different entities? That really is the question, because I think the government is an entity and the people are an entity. And, then of course you have the confusion that the people are the government, and it goes round and round, and who knows?
Well, in this case, the net result was that it didn't say in the explanation on this thing that this will erase all the progress that you made toward controlling your fees. It didn't say that, because if it had said that, maybe people say, hey, wait a minute, why are you putting this on the ballot in the first place?
Yes, right, exactly. And
what's your motivation for commissioners? You can do this for free, spending our money. You won't have to. You'll spend our money to put something on the ballot that that we said we don't want. Why would you do that?
And normally it takes 3 strikes to be out, but in this particular case, they put 2 strikes by us, and that was enough. We're out. We're out of the mix. We don't have anything to say about whether they raise fees or not. And so now, didn't they just update the number of times a year that they meet to consider?
Twice a year now.
Twice a year.
So many fees. Now these fees need to be raised at every possible opportunity. Well, a couple of them are going down. Now you guessed what the percentage is of the ones that are going down. Some of them are brand new. They're brand new. Well, you have an ample opportunity, citizens, to come in and say your opinion. You have 3 minutes, and there's like 6 different departments, and all you need to do is just go do the research on your own, and then you come in. And so what are we going to say? Well, I've done my research and I know that the health department doesn't need it for an elderly dog. Right. There's no way we can know that. So what we can say is, what I intend to say is, this is what the charter made clear. We were bamboozled on this deal, And we want you to know that even though you're going to say, well, just because 5 dozen people showed up, I'm getting all kinds of mystery telephone calls telling me, please, please raise our fees. And Cheryl Walker say, and also we can't put it on the ballot because I've got people begging me not to have it in a voter's pamphlet. They're begging me.
Yes.
Do you believe them when they tell you this?
Oh, sure. They're certainly quite trustworthy.
Well, they were put there by God. Okay. And so he wouldn't put somebody in that office that he didn't want in that office.
How dare we question authority?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Yeah, just like our founding fathers, those rascals. So they were kind of rascally. I like that part about them. So let's go back to that charter and we'll tell you what your rights are. And keep in mind, I think that the new commissioners, the new ones, should say, we don't care what court cases that you were gypped out of. We're going to do what the charter says and then watch the fun ensue. Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
I think that you're going to have to go and I think you're going to have to go deal with that because it's going to be baggage if you're going to have to go back to court or something along those lines. First, I mean, this is one of the things that we need to do. We need to look into that measure. And then we also need to look into the court case so that we can, discuss with specificity, the particulars of those two situations.
It's like this thing that I was telling you about can we say goodbye to bad employees? Do we even have the right to do that? Can we do that? And don't say that you're going to trim down the size of government if you can't trim down the size of government. I mean, you think, well, yes, of course we have that right. Do we have the right? Can new people come in and say, no, we're going to start trimming down the size of government? Who's going to stand in your way? Well, there's a bunch of people who are going to stand in your way.
The Public Employee Union, probably most notable amongst them. And then
the entire Old Boys Network.
Yeah, right. And the rest of county employees, yes, you're going to have nothing but opposition. So that's going to be a tough one to go. What more on this?
Let's read the rationale behind it here, please, sir. The right of the people.
Okay, the vote on private management of
Section 1, the right of the people to regulate fees by voter approval as defined in this charter shall not be circumvented by any county governmental action. The people's authority to regulate fees relating to the use of county properties or county provided services associated with those properties shall not be terminated by the transferal, consignment, assignment, or any other method of conveyance of the management of or the lessee or lease or rental of such properties or services to a private agency, blah 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 blah.
And hang on a second here,
right?
Because somebody's caught napping, and that's me and the rest of everybody who wanted to see this. What section is that?
That's the same section we were in. It was just the next couple of words.
Okay. That I didn't see that.
Oh, it was section 1, following that. Right after the words intent. The intent of this measure is to assure the people that they have authority to regulate fees. And section 1 follows that. Well, you'll just probably have to take my word for it. But you can look it up for yourself. Okay.
Getting there.
Now, then it follows by saying this amendment shall be or can be revised, repealed, or amended only by 60% majority vote of all votes cast at an election brought according to the requirements of this charter. So there were not, I don't think, according to the vote as it was described by Wally Hicks, that 60% of the people repealed this thing. But that's what it ended up being. That's what it ended up being. We've been bamboozled on this. That's pretty much it when it comes to fees.
Well, there is an interesting part in here as it relates to charter amendment and repeal.
Yes, please.
Okay. So in accordance with state law, an initiative measure to amend, revise, or repeal this charter shall be placed on the ballot at the next available county election date, or a regular primary general election, whichever comes first. And let's see here. And then an initiative petition to submit a charter amendment or repeal to the voters must be filed with the county clerk not less than 90 days before any county election date or primary or general election at which the proposed measure is to be voted upon. It would be interesting to go through all this stuff, piece by piece, to see if they conformed with that when they put this other measure on the ballot.
They found an easy end run around this, and Steve Rich laughs about it, or did laugh about it, before he moved to Newport, Oregon, where he is now their legal counsel. Newport, Steve Rich. And he laughs about it because he went to court and won because no one else showed up to argue against it. Well, what he didn't say at the time was his two clients were the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of County Commissioners. Oh, I'm sorry, the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of County Commissioners of Oregon, of Josephine County, or something like that. While he was playing it to us, and he says, well, yeah, there's a challenge. You're no kidding. Okay, so they won. Wouldn't they win either way?
Yes, but if you look in this same thing in Section 3, it says this charter shall be amended, revised, or repealed only through the use of the initiative process as defined in Chapter 7 of this charter. And no county ordinance shall prescribe to the contrary. Now,
here's another really interesting part. As Wally described it to us, the commissioners cannot do that. Only the citizens can do that. So what are the commissioners going to do? We don't like this thing that the populace said. We said we didn't like it. They passed it anyway, or in the case of levies, they didn't pass something we told them they had to pass. So what are we going to do? Well, we'll go to court. Or we'll go up to the state and we'll get them to impose a $2 fee on us.
Right.
See?
Yes. So, right. Yeah, that's a good point.
They're representing themselves. And this court case, they represented themselves against themselves, which is such a neat trick. But
who put the initiative on the ballot back when they did this thing? Who did that?
The people put that on the ballot, and they said, this is what we want. And they were very clear. They even put their intent. Our intent is that we're going to control the fee.
You're talking about the charter and the charter amendment. I'm talking about they put something on the ballot here in order to set up the framework of fees, and that is what ultimately took the power back from us.
Right. That was the commissioners. That wasn't the same thing as revising a charter. I should have said that more clearly. They said this isn't revising the charter. This is simply putting a method in there to carry forth the will of the people. And look, here it is.
So essentially, and it would be interesting to see how many of the voters agree with this, that the method by which your fees have been raised is as prescribed by you. So thank you very much for giving us all the permission to raise the fees whenever we want to.
But Mike, even the show is boring. Where's the action? Where's the cars blowing up? I mean, there's trucks or something.
If you don't care about that part of it, then I guess we can't help you. I think that's the most important thing happening here, is the fact that you apparently, and maybe you don't even know it, gave the power back to the county to raise the fees whenever they want to without asking you about it. Because
they were tricked into doing it. They were tricked.
Right.
They elected this legal counsel who knew exactly what he was doing and set about it methodically to trick the people. Oh, that's not right, Mr. Well, if that's not right, then how come the people had the power and then didn't have the power? They didn't think they were voting away their power. Come on now, Mr. Rich.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I wonder, because one party made a complaint, and then they had this little pseudo battle going back and forth about that particular amendment. So that being the case, why can't we just come at them with another argument? And
we could, you see, but we have to have the willingness to do so. You're going to have to elect two people see eye to eye on this. It won't do any good to elect one. Sandy Casanelli tried to do something about this. You saw what happened to her.
Yeah, but not necessarily, because this would be out of their hands. I mean, the commissioners could certainly meddle in the process of the court case, but this would be happening before a judge here. A judge would have to make this decision if you took them back to court over this situation and said, hey, this thing is not right, and call into question the last ruling that was made.
If you did take it to court, then it would take a lot of extra effort, and hopefully we'd have Wally Hicks on our side on this one.
Okay.
But if you don't take it to court, and if you just say summary judgment, hey, listen, here's how we're going to handle fees from now on, who's going to sue you? The remaining commissioner?
And just to be clear, I am not a lawyer. I know nothing about this process, and I may be way out in the weeds.
But let's look at what the will of the people was. Wasn't it very clear? They even put their intent. This is what we mean to say. It was crystal clear what the people wanted. They wanted control over their own fees. Not you have an election every other day. No, you save up the fees. You do it once a year, and you have to put it on the ballot. Do I like this one, this one, this one, or this one, or none of them? They wanted control, and they got control, and the person that you elected into that position, Steve Rich, went to court against you. Isn't that sweet?
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, he laughed about it. That's nice, too. He's in Newport now. Okay, so what can we possibly do about this? Well, what the people who are really asleep at the switch, and I know Mike says it's your fault, and it is partly your fault unless you're new and watching this show. The people who are really at the only defense that you have is either one, hopefully two, county commissioners who are going to go to bat for you instead of against you. And the other one is a free press that says, hey, wait a minute. Let's look at this. What does this mean? I would submit to you that the Daily Courier knew exactly what it meant.
Well, okay. But they seem to be caught napping. Either that or they're willfully misreporting things, because, I mean, you just cited here, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, a story that they got totally wrong, even though
Scott Chancey
yes, thank you. Was saying, hey, here's how it is, and be sure to report it this way. Are they willfully doing it? Are they just so dense that, reality doesn't penetrate through that thick of skull? It's really hard to tell. But if they are willfully doing this kind of stuff, then they're the enemy.
I agree.